My name is Rachel. I'm the Director of Marketing here at Venture Lab. Sorry, I'm covering my mic. Is everybody here a client of Venture Lab? Yes? No? No? Not? Yes. Okay. So Venture Lab is a not-for-profit regional innovation center, and we support entrepreneurs across York Region, Simcoe County, Muskoka District, and all of the GTA. So if you have any questions on how we could help you, we'd be happy to discuss that afterwards. Emily back there live streaming our events can help you. So can I. I'll be back down towards the end of the event and answer any questions. A few housekeeping rules. Bathrooms, if you haven't seen them, they're outside to the right down the hall. We have some refreshments on the side here. And as I mentioned, we're live streaming the event. We have, I think, 10 to 15 people right now on live streaming. And so we'll be wearing this mic, but it's mic'd for live streaming. So if you can't hear Kim, just raise your hand, let her know. It's a small group, so I think you'll be able to hear her. She's going to hold a Q&A session towards the end of the event, so try to hold your questions towards the end. It's a lot of content to cover. So I had a chat with Kim actually a couple weeks ago, and I got to know her a little bit, and I want to share just a bit about Kim. For over 20 years, she's worked with clients in every industry, and also including the startup industry. As a CEO of Talent Minded, Kim's mission is to help companies meet their business goals by improving their approach to acquiring the right talent. She spent 5 years as a lecturer at Schulich School of Business for their MBA program in sales leadership on recruiting, best practices and for salespeople. And her latest venture, which is Talent Minded, which she's here representing, started only 18 months ago. And it started with 2 people, and now there are 22 staff members. So that's actually pretty amazing. I'm sure a lot of you can relate to that. She's also a proud mom of 1 son, and her son has a, I think, brown belt, right, in karate, which is pretty amazing. And spoken at a number of events, so we're really excited to have her here with us. It's a nice, intimate group, so she'll be able to really, I think, answer a lot of your questions one-on-one. So Kim, if we can all welcome Kim. Thank you. Okay.
Thank you.
You can wear this. It's easier for you if you're going to walk around.
Yep. Perfect.
Hopefully that works okay.
Great. Thank you. Thanks for that wonderful intro. I love the fact that we have a small group here today. As Rachel mentioned, we have lots of content, so we're going to try and move through things as quickly as possible. But before we get started, I wanted to tell you a little story about recruitment. So about 12 months ago, I met a CEO. I was introduced to a CEO of a growing tech company here in Toronto. And it was just an ask from a good friend of mine that said, hey, you know, I've got this friend, he's the COO of a company, and he's having a tough time finding people. Do you mind just spending some time with him, just a coffee chat? Maybe you can help him out. So we met up for a coffee, and I said, okay, well, what seems to be the problem? We are having a hard time finding really good quality talent. I said, what does that mean? Number one, we know every single person in our industry. We have completely tapped out that talent pool. Number two, we are spending way too much money, thousands and thousands of dollars on staffing firms, third-party recruiters, and we're not actually that happy with the outcome every time. And number three, we are 20 hires behind plan. So I said, okay, let's work this back. How many candidates do you have in your pipeline and at what stage? I don't know. What do you mean? I said, think about this. It takes on average 52 days to hire a quality candidate. Global average hasn't changed since 1972. It's about 52, 57 days. How many candidates do you have in your pipeline? I don't know. Then you're not going to make the quarter. Recruitment is sales. Would you run your sales department like you run recruiting? So probably not the advice that he was expecting, but it resonated. We see recruitment through a sales and marketing lens. Recruitment is a critical business process like any other within your business. So here's what we're going to talk about today. A quick agenda. So we're going to go through some of the new trends, what's happening in recruitment. We're going to talk a little bit about what is an employment value proposition, and more important, why should you care? And then we're going to share some tips on how you can actually apply some of these processes and some of these new ideas to help you build quality talent pipelines to grow your business. So before we dive in, I want to ask you a question, and it's a very simple one, but the answer really matters. Why should I? Why should I come and work for you? Why should I put my dreams and my career goals in your hands? Right? If my son or my daughter wanted to come and work with you, why should they? And so really dig deep. What do you truly believe the answer to be? What would you tell me? So we're going to get back to that. And the answer matters. The answer matters because we are competing globally for everything. Everything is broken. We are trying to make things cheaper, faster, better, and we are competing on a global scale. And when you consider that there is one developer for every 5 vacancies globally, the answer really matters. So here's the crappy part. There's no silver bullet in recruitment. There's no one-size-fits-all strategy. Recruitment is hard, and if it was easy, everybody else would be doing a better job. It's so hard, in fact, that 67% of CEOs, part of a global study, said that they are not ready for the talent challenges ahead. It's getting so hard, some say, to find talent that it's actually easier to find new customers than it is to find the right people for your business. Paycor, for example, US-based company that sells technology for HR and payroll, actually said in an article in the Wall Street Journal that they would have forecasted $2 million more in revenue if they had made their sales hiring targets. So why is that? What's happening? There are futurists and thought leaders that have predicted that this era that we are in recruitment is one of the most intense. We are going through the most fundamental shift in the last 40 years that we've ever seen in recruitment, how companies go about recruiting talent for their firms. The shift is seismic. Recruitment is changing. However, most organizations seem like they are frozen in time. Their processes haven't changed. So, savvy job seekers, huge shifts in technology, digital disruption, and super aggressive tactics are really putting the pressure on. Has anybody heard of a company, Atlassian? It was only a few years ago that they actually rented a double-decker bus and drove around, I think, 11 different regions looking for 11 developers. That is the length at which they will go to find the best developer talent in the world. Aggressive tactics. So let's look at this a little closer. So we've gone through several eras of recruitment. Not that long ago, Recruitment 1.0, say 15, 20 years ago, we would take out ads in the paper, right? You would fax your resume. Now maybe I'm the only one in this room that would remember that, but that's how recruitment got done. It was super slow, right? It took us long cycle times to hire individuals, and it was kind of a bums in seats methodology. 2.0, Recruitment 2.0, technology moved us online, right? We had job boards like Workopolis and Monster. We had resume databases, right? So they did help us react to our requirements and our hiring needs, but the processes were still the same, right? It was often referred, this era, to the lottery, right? And it was still an expensive way to go about recruitment. So fast forward, hyperdrive, right? We're in Recruitment 3.0. So I make a point of making sure that I have at least one Star Wars reference in every single presentation. I do have an 11-year-old. In this era, companies only want to hire the best of the best, right? I'm sure you've never heard this, but we only want to hire the A players, right? But only 10%, we know, are actually actively looking. So that means 90% of that talent pool, and of course the best among them, are not looking for you. So in 3.0, in this era, that means that everyone, almost everyone, is a potential candidate. The person at the coffee shop, the guy at the gym, somebody you meet at a conference, everyone is a potential candidate. I love this quote from Dan Finnegan, the CEO of JobVite, one of our favorite applicant tracking systems that we use for our clients. Inside every employed worker, there is a job seeker. So this poses huge problems for organizations. If everyone is a potential candidate, at what stage do they actually volunteer into your recruitment process? Maybe when this happens. This is one of the #1 hashtags. My job sucks and I hate my job, right? 70%, we know from Gallup, they come out with big surveys every year. 70% of the workforce is either passively or aggressively disengaged with their organization, right? We know that people aren't happy. Lastly, with regards to 3.0, is you are no longer in control. You are no longer in control of what people say about you. It's not brands talking about brands. Who here has heard of Glassdoor? Right, most of you. So Glassdoor essentially is like TripAdvisor for employers. Employees, past, current, can actually get online, write an anonymous review about what they really think about you and what it's really like to work there. So if you're not careful, this happens. So of course I've taken out the comments to protect the innocent. But this is an example of a current review on a startup company here in Toronto that is having a very hard time finding top talent, cripplingly negative. And my favorite part, there's this new button that says how many people actually found this review helpful. So you're the COO. If you're not careful, you're the COO who's sitting in a coffee shop talking to Kim Benedict saying, where'd all the good people go? So companies have two options. I promise I'll get to the helpful stuff. Companies have two options. They can either wait for, post a job and wait for candidates to apply and then jump on them, or we can tempt them into becoming a candidate. Everyone is a potential candidate, and it is up to us to create them. So, what are some of the keys to success in this era of recruitment, this new way of going about hiring talent? Your culture and your brand, your reputation is everything. Hands down, it's the only long-term, long-range game. Your social networks rule. There is not enough recruiting time or quality recruitment services available to hire for every single role. Your social networks, your ability to mobilize your internal employees to be engaged within referrals, engaged in demonstrating what a great place to work your organization is, that will be the difference between good and great. Being able to build predictable talent pipelines, not understanding, like our COO friend, when good quality candidate was going to come into the organization isn't acceptable. Building predictable quality talent pipelines is key. Mobile. I'm not sure if you'd be shocked to know, but 50 to 70, sometimes 80% of applications are coming through mobile devices, and that number is increasing tremendously month over month. So if your process is not mobile enabled or mobile optimized, you're missing out on a huge talent pool. Analytics, everything is data-driven. We know that. Recruitment is no different. So organizations that are able to leverage the data and the analytics to make really smart decisions about where they invest in recruitment and how they go about and their approach will win the game. So what are some of the challenges as it might relate to this group, right? What are the challenges in 3.0, especially for high-growth firms? Especially for technology firms where we know that there's one developer for every 5 vacancies. So nobody knows who you are. Nobody's looking for you, and nobody knows who you are, right? You have no brand or name recognition. You may not even have a product that's out in the market yet. You have no budget, right? You can't afford traditional recruitment models where you might pay tens of thousands of dollars, right? Oftentimes as well, when you're thinking about your business, you're not adding recruitment as a budget line. It oftentimes is overlooked in that process. Your processes in general are informal, right? They usually are for almost everything that you do in your business. Recruitment, again, is no different, right? So it's not necessarily structured, and therefore it's not efficient. You're looking for unicorns and purple squirrels, right? Which can be or rock stars and ninjas and gurus, right? So that can make things very difficult for smaller organizations. And your first impression counts. It could be the last chance or the last impression if we don't get this part right. Because here's the thing. There are over 6,800 developer jobs posted on Indeed, which is one of the world's largest job board, just within 50 kilometers of where we are today. 6,800 job opportunities. Everybody's got the same problem, and everybody has the same idea. So we're going to take a break right there, and I'm actually going to turn you all into job seekers just for 5 minutes. So I would like to challenge you to get on your phones and search for a job, either perhaps one that you want or maybe one that you think your staff might want that's better than the one that they have now. And try to apply for that job on your phone. So just take a few minutes, search out like best job on the planet within 50 kilometers, best developer job, jobs in engineering, see what comes up, and see how well we're doing. We may be surprised. Do you get one, Leah? Not yet? Oh, it could take a while. You got to dream big, right? Absolutely. So I hope that our friends on live stream are also taking a moment. Jim, are you able to find anything? Yeah. Did you apply? Were you able to apply with your phone to that job? Yeah. Is it cumbersome? No, you weren't able to apply? Yeah. You have to set up a user and a password. Yeah. So I think you get the point. I usually try just to make sure in case I get surprised, but then I give up because it's too hard. And I have a Samsung.
The apply now button could be a Kafkaesque experience.
Yes. So here are some of the things that I like to call recruitment crimes. So these are some of the things that I found when I actually did that exercise on my own. So we are a young and energetic environment offering a dynamic work environment. Never heard that before. Very unique. Very unique. Contact us on email referring to this job. That's for a tech startup. That looks like a government application if I ever saw one. And then we thank all applicants, don't call us, we'll call you, and we only want to talk to people who are local, right? This isn't a match with where we are today and how difficult and how hard it is to recruit top talent. First impressions count. Job ads matter. It's often a very overlooked and undervalued tool that you have available that's relatively free, right? If you're a startup that doesn't have a lot of budget and not a lot of recruiting tools, your job ad is the very first thing that's going to tempt people into having a conversation with you. Yet we post, and we post laundry list of skills, nothing interesting, and then we can't actually apply on our phones. So I'm going to give you a couple of tips, things that you can actually do if you're thinking about your job ad and you want to make changes. Here's just some of the recommendations. And I will add that at Talent Minded, with some of our programs, we find that candidates, passive candidates, that 90%, oftentimes will apply to our postings on behalf of our clients simply because they saw the job ad and it intrigued them. Otherwise, they weren't looking. We hear that all the time, so it works. So instead of, here's a job overview, try, why join us, followed by 2 sentences. Oftentimes, you'll see jobs that just start in on the responsibilities, and they don't stop to say, hey, right, here's why you might want to think about us, and then keep them reading further. Bearing a drawback in, somewhere within the posting where it gets perhaps glossed over, try adding, like, here's the worst part about the job. Transparency and authenticity sells, right? You're already building trust with that candidate with this type of approach. Here's something that we do, especially in Canada, really, really well. We try to appeal to everybody, right? These very vanilla and generic don't want to deter someone from applying that could potentially be a fit. So we try to appeal to everyone. And then what we get is a generic pool of talent. We get hundreds and hundreds of resumes that we need to sift through that aren't a fit. Try making it personal and really speaking to the person that you want. It's okay, right? It's quality over quantity. Instead of the qualified candidate will demonstrate, try, our best salespeople are like superheroes for our customers. And when they're not out saving the world, they're axe throwing, right? Whatever it is. Lead the business and drive change to meet performance objectives and goals of the organization. So what does that mean, right? Try this instead. You'll be in charge of building a team of 10 salespeople and responsible for increasing revenue in our first year. There will be at least 1.5 million issues vying for your attention, et cetera, et cetera. Just a couple of more. Instead of working a cross-functional team to implement practical solutions, try, you'll get hands-on leadership, mentorship to motivate your teams, to try and persuade people who don't always agree with you. This is much more compelling and interesting of an approach. And lastly, instead of putting your readers to sleep, right, try to go for a laugh. It works. So really quickly, a couple of quick check-ins. Ask yourself next time you're writing a job ad, or if you're rewriting a job ad that you currently have, does it accurately describe your culture first? Why should I? Does it tell the audience why they should be interested in this job? What will they become as opposed to the skills that I bring to the table? Is it interesting? Is it compelling? Would people actually like it and share it outside of their networks, right? The we're hiring, right, without any interesting tagline or engagement or feeling doesn't go as far. Does it focus on the needs of the candidate, the consumer, right? We can almost think in terms of the employment consumer as opposed to a candidate. Is it performance-based? Does it talk about the projects, right, and how I am going to professionally develop from where I am today to where I will be tomorrow, as opposed to listing years of experience. What will I have done in those 5 years of experience that's going to help me grow and add value in this role? And is it optimized for search engine? Is it search engine optimized, right? So Indeed actually recommends that you embed the title of the job in the ad 14 times. It's really hard to do. It almost makes you start sounding like you don't know what you're talking about. So we try to go for 10 or 11. But there are things in keyword searches, just like in marketing campaigns, we have to think the same way. And is it honest about everything, right? Large proportion of retention issues are often because we've sold something that doesn't actually exist. We have a client that we worked with, and they had a big challenge with the location of their office and the actual format of their office. They were looking to make a move, but it was taking a long time, and so they had a lot of challenges. The environment was not aligned really to who they were as an organization. So we wrote it right into the job ad. It immediately created trust and, more importantly, interest in the organization. So it works.
How did you phrase it?
We just said, here's what's not so great about it. Like, we've got this office, and it kind of smells like glue sometimes, right? And but we've got dogs, and we promise we're moving, and this is what we're thinking, and we're going to get there. Something along those lines. It was, I'm sure, more eloquently written by our chief storyteller, but you get the gist. So here's what you need to remember. In this day and age, in this modern approach to recruitment, your employer brand is your number one source of hire. It does not matter if this person came through a career fair or a referral or from a conference or from your job board. Your number one source is your brand. Your ability as an organization, as an executive, as a business owner to express what makes you truly unique and why someone would want to join your organization is the most powerful recruitment tool that you own, right? Your ability to connect with that target audience, which are the people who work for you and the ones who should be but don't know it yet. We call this the employment value proposition, the EVP. All right, so what is the EVP? It is that virtual handshake, right? That deal struck between the employee and the employer, right? For their knowledge, their experience, and exchange for their performance. It is everything that you offer, the unique combination of everything that you offer to an employee and promise in exchange for their time and their effort. And it's how a business packages and differentiates itself from its competitors, its values, its visions, its origins, etc. It is the reason why people get in their cars and commute 45 minutes day in and day out and show up for work. It's what they brag about at the backyard barbecue. It's what they say about you behind your back. And it's all the things that you can't touch or feel, the intangibles beyond the paycheck. So the EVP, regardless of how small you are, right, whether you're 2 people or you're 200 people, it exists. It cannot be easily found. And the really good ones create an emotional connection with their target audience. So perhaps more importantly than what it is it not? Right? It's not just perks and ping pong tables and holiday parties, right? Those things are important, but that's not why people join and why people stay. It's not just your products, right? And how cool your products are. Not even Google relies on their products to attract talent to their organization. It's not your consumer brand, right? It's not what your customers think about you or know about you in the marketplace. Again, that's important, but it's not necessarily the dominant reason why people join. It's not just your compensation. It's not just dollars and cents and benefits. Again, these things are important, but they're table stakes, they're basic ingredients. Even unlimited vacation is becoming basic ingredients. So your employment value proposition cannot be created, right? It's not something that you can drum up like a marketing campaign. It must be developed and understood. And as I mentioned before, you have one. Regardless of the size or where you are, at what stage within your organization, it is evolving and developing, right? So we've known about the employment value proposition. I think it actually made its way into Wiki in 2005. We understood the definition of what an employment value proposition. So what's the problem, right? Here's the challenge. Less than 5% of organizations can consistently or clearly articulate why and what makes them unique. It's oftentimes created in the boardroom with the executives. This is what we think our people think. And more times than not, it's wrong. It's vanilla, it's boring, it's generic. You're trying to appeal to everyone, right? Most companies don't know how to execute, right? They may have it, but they're not necessarily amplifying or activate it effectively within the market and within the talent pools. And probably the most common, it's not actually true. It doesn't actually exist. And then, of course, you can't prove it. So here's an example of 4 technology startups. Again, I've taken the names out because to protect some of the innocent. But here's an example of career pages, the perks and the benefits. And it's hard to read, I know, because it's small, but they kind of all start to look the same, right? It's ping pong, it's axe throwing, it's beer Fridays. Free house cleaning, though, that one got me. I like that. Hack days, swag, unlimited snacks, catered lunches, right? It's just getting harder. So it sounds like a lot of work, right? It's a little overwhelming. It's not as easy as it sounds. So is it really worth it, right? What's in it for me? It's a fact. Companies who invest in developing and executing their EVP are 3 times more financially successful than those who do not. Companies like Great Place to Work have been tracking this for 15 plus years. There is a huge value proposition to the EVP. Couple of key points. Candidates come pre-qualified, so you're not spending time weeding out people who are not qualified and wouldn't be the right fit, right? Nobody knows themselves better than the candidates. Reduces new hire costs and staffing fees. There's a statistic that the cost per hire for companies that have a well-defined and are able to articulate their EVP, the cost per hire is 3 times less than those who do not. And if you're just selling on price, what happens, right? You end up, you're going to end up having to pay that person 20% more on average. They stay longer, right? They believe in the promise, they bought into the promise, they're aligned, they tend to stay longer. There's more forgiveness. And I think probably one of the most important, it helps you actually prioritize what your employees truly value. So if you're making investments in training and development or perks and holiday parties, you really understand what they value. If catered lunches and bagels, and you're spending $10,000 on bagels every year, and that really doesn't have value to your employees, you may want to consider doing something different. So by really understanding your employment value proposition, you can better align your people strategies. So there are sort of documented 5 core elements of an EVP, and this is going to be important because we do have an exercise for you today. So really quickly, rewards, work, opportunity, organization, and people. We've sort of put it together in these 5 key buckets. So work, travel, work-life balance, being a master of your domain, autonomy, and having the tools to do my job well. Opportunity, obviously, career development, professional development, What's the actual growth or market opportunity? Are we creating a new vertical? What is the size of that opportunity that would get me excited? The organization, we talked about reputation, corporate citizenship. What are the things around social responsibility that you care about and are important to you? People, coworker quality. Netflix is famous for coworker quality. They vow and make promises to their employees that they will uphold coworker quality. It's actually written in their HR manifesto that they will terminate employees that are not performing because they believe that you want to work with the smartest and best people. And they will treat those people and exit them with an incredible amount of dignity, but that is a promise that they make to their employees, and it makes a difference. Rewards, right? Still very important part. Benefits, we see a lot changing in benefits, right? More young people want flexible benefits, not our traditional benefits packages. So those things become important. Vacation, recognition. How do you reward the types of organizational behavior that are aligned to your culture and your values? So not everybody's doing a bad job, and this might be a little bit unfair given that we're talking about startups with no brand, but Adidas does a really great job understanding their talent, what's important to them, and then communicating it in a way that creates an emotional connection with the right people. Has anybody heard of 360 incentives? They're one of the best places to work in Canada in small business category. And so they actually have an office, a growing company in the downtown financial district of Whitby, which is probably a couple blocks. So they have a really hard time finding tech talent, right, to go the opposite way into the city. And are we able to play this, Emily? Are we able to play the... If it's not embedded, it might not work. I apologize, but I would encourage you. This is Jason Atkins. He's the CEO of 360 Incentives. And if you go onto YouTube and type in 360 Incentives, this is one of the first videos that they have that will come up. This can also be found on their career page. It's a few years old, but it's still one of my favorites. Done on a shoestring budget. It's basically a Nerf battle in their office, and it really aligns to their core values. I think that they had some film students come in and edit this and put it together for them. It's funny, and it hits all of the points, and they still use it today in their recruitment process. It's a lot of fun. It's I think it's like less than 3 minutes. So they do a really great job. I mean, they go so far as to actually get onto the GO train at 5 o'clock in the morning and give out free coffee, just trying to get people's attention and build awareness that they're there. Intellex, which is a growing technology company, they just raised $160 million in their last round. They just moved into a big office. They do a great job. They have every perk and every benefit. The CEO, Mark Jane, from day one has always been laser focused on employee engagement and hiring the best and keeping them. And so they do a great job demonstrating through real live pictures, not stock photography, of why people join the organization and what benefits and professional development and things like that are available to them. So now it's your turn. We're going to do a short exercise. And we're going to put some of these ideas and these theories into place. So we may need to move around a little bit, but I want us to work on this challenge, and it may be a challenge that you are facing currently in your businesses, but how would you attract the right people if your compensation was 20% below market, right? Back to answering the question, why should I? Rachel mentioned we're a startup. We went from 20 people to 22 people in a very short period of time. Lucky for us, we're really good at recruiting. But we have to hire, we're a startup too. We have to hire people. We have a little office at Main and Kingston Road. Most of the people that we hire have never even been on that side of Yonge Street, and let alone would commute 45 minutes. But we have a value proposition that really appeals to our target audience that is very different from what we're selling in the market. So it is possible. So what I'd like to do is get everybody together in groups, each table be a group, and share some of the things that you believe make you special, right? Kind of using that framework, those key components, and I have a slide that I'll put up here that you can refer to. Discover what makes you unique to your competition, right? What can I get that I can easily get somewhere else, right? Why do people join? Why do they stay? Maybe you pick the best of some of the things. Talk about maybe some of the things that you've tried that haven't worked. This is really to learn from other people in the industry and other people in similar businesses. You can kind of pretend that all your companies come together and you take the best of what everybody's doing. And be prepared, each table, to share with the group, the rest of the group, like one short statement that you think you could use in a job ad about why people would join and why people would stay. Oop. Yes, so some quick tips to think about. We're able to do 15 minutes for this exercise, Emily? Perfect. Be short and to the point, right? Because we're going to be on our mobile eventually. Be bold and compelling, right? One of the things I always tell, like, these are words that we don't like people to use anymore in job ads. Innovation, collaboration, we're like a family. Families are dysfunctional, you can't fire family, right? So it matters, but what is it about the family? Why do people like working there? Well, we have foosball championships. What is it about your foosball table that is better than the one across the hall? Because guaranteed they have one too, right? And so what is it? Why? Keep asking, try to peel back those layers to get to what makes you truly unique. And you will get there. And just have fun. It's really just about sharing, coming up with ideas. It's okay to aspire to things if you're not quite there yet, provided they're not too far of a stretch. And so I've put this up here of some things that you might want to consider as you're chatting with your colleagues and coming up with one or two statements. Okay, we're going to get started up again. So the challenge was to come up with one or two statements that might find its way to one of your job postings that talks about why your opportunity is unique, why working with your organization is unique. So we're going to share with the group and with our live stream team as well. So we'll start here and we'll move around and then we can sort of talk about what your experience was. And I'm going to stand close just so everybody can hear who's not in the room. Are you the spokesperson? Great. Can you stand up? Do you mind?
Would you like to take company from 20 employees to 100 employees? Are you ready for the challenge? You will be an architect of your own future. You will be a designer painting on a white canvas. And we wanted to develop it to the style that you will be an architect, designer, a developer, to give kind of feeling of authority, as you mentioned before. So we are a small company. We want to attract CEOs that work in a big company. We're offering 20% less at everyone, so we're kind of filtering a lot of people. So to make it attractive, we are assuring that we offering an opportunity to really build something. So he will be an architect, a designer, a painter. We'll go like more creative.
Yeah, that's cool. I love the architecture as opposed to build. That's awesome. Great. Round of applause. Congratulations. Good stuff. All right. Team awesome.
Okay, thank
Yeah.
you.
No pressure.
Okay, marvelous. There were some really good ideas that each member of the team had, and some were shared. One of the very important one was the freedom to create, the intellectual growth within a job. Each one of us has a series of tasks that we have to comply with, but that level of freedom to grow and to look outside of the everyday scope of the job, that we thought to give, to be tolerant of ideas in a company. One is generally regarding the job, and tolerant of ideas that come from a different culture, come from a different gender, very particularly came up. Not all areas are still, very successful with those. So that was the one set of ideas that came up. Very important was the equal opportunity employer, both culturally and both regarding a gender, that also communicate that upfront, that we are creating an equal and diverse culture. And that is obviously acceptable by most, and most are recipients of that. But some are not, if they are not looking at being a part of a culturally diverse environment, they can opt out for any reason.
Exactly.
Flexibility of a schedule came about, that I mentioned that, for example, my job is very rigid in terms of times, but it came up that there are some jobs that you can have 2 or 3 days of long hours and hard hours, but you have 3-4 very flexible days, even times off. Collaboration, ambitious, it came up that ambitious leaders are very well, accepted in the company, and so on and so forth. So we thought those triggers, as intellectual growth, flexibility, tolerance, and ambitious, we'll use those to compile our adverts.
That's awesome. Great. Good job. I love the diversity component, and as you say, if that's not important to you or important enough to you, then that may not be attractive, and that's okay. Perfect. Awesome. Great. Good job. Okay, team on fire.
I have a short statement to make.
Yes.
We came up with the main issue that we identified was there's an employer with an opportunity for recruits and employees to do lots of different things. So I just wrote down provides a culture that is a culture that provides lots of opportunity for serious geeks to do tons of different stuff, product management, marketing, sales, etc., on their way forward.
Nice. I love that.
That was it.
Serious geeks. Very well done. Good job. I know exactly who that's for. Awesome. So what was your experience? I heard over here, wow, that was harder than I thought it was going to be. It was hard.
Well, the words, the language, the linguistic distinctions. That
Being able to articulate in an interesting way that is different.
Without being too corny.
Right?
Too corny on one end, trying to find the sweet spot where it's funny but not ridiculous.
You're right. Yeah, perfect. Yes?
They're coming back to what we want instead of what we offering.
Right. Very difficult. You are correct. You keep going back to the old traditional, I want this person to do this.
I found myself like all the time saying, okay, we have to stop, we need to think why they should.
Yes.
So finally we kind of thought, let's try to be on the opposite side, try to see where CEOs that would like to join a company, what they will look for.
Yeah. Yeah. It takes some discipline for sure. Yes.
Okay, I feel it was too hard at the outset, but the moment we opened up and everybody shared their experiences and ideas, we immediately started getting to a set of new ideas and conclusions. So it was hard because nobody was sharing in the beginning, but the moment we felt as a team that we had a target, it immediately became a success.
That's awesome. Great. Cool. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. I was saying to this group here, there are companies, especially large organizations, that spend hundreds and thousands of dollars. Oil and gas, when things were, $100 a barrel, they would spend $500,000 just on one video. But that was, we don't have those kinds of budgets, so even just to come up with one consistent statement can have a big impact. So I commend you for that. Great. Perfect. So we're going to move on. A couple of more things now, because we have our EVP, right? We better understand why somebody would want to join. What happens next? So it's important to understand that recruitment is a process, not an event, right? It doesn't just sit in a department. It's something that should happen all the time, right? So what does that potentially look like? I've got some examples that I want to share, some tips and tricks that have worked for us and our clients. Here's an article that was written by Jason Atkins from 360 Incentives about his feelings and thoughts around winning Best Place to Work. And it was a real emotional journey for them with regards to their people. So it was a very heartfelt statement. But this is a good example of if a candidate sees a job ad, maybe sees the video, and then comes across this article, you can be guaranteed that they're going to tempt themselves into wanting to have a conversation to learn more, even if they have to trek it all the way out to Whitby for their opportunity for that job. So this is a really good example. It's not just about posting jobs, it's about what other information I can find out about you and whether or not I want to work there. This is something that just came into my LinkedIn feed. So this is a screenshot of a company called Causley, and I added it because I quite liked it. More and more, everything is becoming visual or video, right? Not just text. And so I thought this was a great approach. I actually don't know anybody in this organization, but somebody in my network must have shared it. So this says, get to know Causley, and it talks about Melissa, and it's got some quirky, fun facts here about her, and they're welcoming her into the organization. Make no mistake, this is engagement, and this is potentially a recruitment strategy to find more people like her. So I thought this looked like an easy, simple thing to do, and the more people you can get sharing and engaging that within their social networks, you have a better chance of winning the war for talent. Here's an article that we wrote for one of our clients in the US, Market Bridge, and we wrote an article about the COO, Peter Guy, or the VP of Development, Peter Guy, so it was an interview with the guy behind the team. Their organization, Market Bridge, was very popular in professional services marketing, but they had a new technology and they were trying to build a new part of the organization, and they were having a hard time because people don't think of them for tech talent. So we wrote this article, got quite a bit of traction to help them recruit in New York for technical and dev talent. It's a really great article, but this is a very good example of a recruitment marketing document that was helping the brand, build the brand and build quality talent pipelines in conjunction with all the other things that we were doing. This is one of my favorite lines. I actually heard somebody say this a couple years ago in Las Vegas at the HR Tech Conference, which like 4,000 people attend, but human eureka. It's about human eureka, and it's 10 times more effective than any marketing campaign that you can spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on. We spend a lot of time making sure that we are expanding our reach with our employment value proposition and with our job ads for our clients, that we are expanding our reach through things like social media and LinkedIn, and we track and analyze the level of engagement on everything that we do. We tweak and course correct. We're always trying new things. And guaranteed every time we get 10 times the amount of engagement on job postings and posts like the one that you saw on Causley than any other webinar or marketing campaign that comes out of your corporate communications department. Guaranteed. Human eureka is 10 times more effective. So I'll leave you with some tips for small businesses, things that I think you can do almost for free, free or almost for free, that can easily be done in workshops like this within your team if you spend some time on it. So first and foremost, focus on your referral program. If you're small, 2, 20, the best thing that you can do for yourself is tap your employee and your external referral network until it is dry. Squeeze every piece of juice out of that lemon. It's the most cost-effective way to hire, and it's the most quality way to hire. So I always say to startups, and somebody asked me earlier, what would you recommend? I said, you've got to find this person in your network. So build an employee referral program, especially for hard-to-fill roles, and create a brand for it. Call it something. Bring it to life, right? Know your audience. Think like a marketer. Think like a data scientist. These are all the new skills that we need in recruitment. So if you think like a marketer, as you were saying earlier, what's in it for me, right? And what's that segment? What's that audience? You'll have a better chance. Rewrite your job postings. I think I've said that several times, but I would definitely recommend if you have stale job postings out there right now that aren't getting traction, refresh them, rewrite them with some of the things that we talked about. One of the things that you have going for you as a small business is you're small. And what the big guys can't do is move fast or get anything interesting past legal. So your ability to be fast and agile and course correct and try new things and track and analyze is one of your best weapons. Focus on the candidate experience. This is another thing that the big guys really suck at. They just get way too many applicants to be able to manage the candidate experience or roll out red carpets. So if you focus on candidate experience early and make it part of what makes you really special, that can have a huge impact. Because oftentimes the candidate that's not a right fit knows the one that is, and if they've had a good experience, even though they didn't get the job, they will refer people. Or they'll remember it 6 months later when they have the skills that you really want. Use the technology. I cannot stress this enough. Some of the fastest growing companies in Canada in technology are still managing on email. That has got to be the biggest turnoff. If you are top talent, would you send your resume to an unknown person at jobs@thiscareer.com? Probably not, right? Technology can help drive that candidate experience, expand your reach, and obviously help you track and measure and manage your workflows. There are a couple of free technologies. Breezy HR, for example, is cheap and cheerful if you only have a few roles, and they do a really good job at helping you brand your organization through photos and videos and links and things like that. Jazz and JobVite are also two of our favorites that we find are cost effective and work really well in this sales and marketing approach. Attend events. There are lots of tech TO meetups. There's one in Toronto. I was there on Monday. There's at least 400 people there. You're not going to walk out with a boat full of talent, but people will remember you if you give them a good experience. You can see what other companies are doing. Career fairs. There's Tech Fest later on tonight. These are all things that you should be getting ideas from and attending just to stay on top of what's trending. Get creative. So we have a company that we work with in Markham, and we're looking for some marketing talent. And so one of our taglines was, "Do you like to eat your pancakes in Markham?" We received such an overwhelming positive response because it was unique and different. And these candidates were getting contacted by recruiters sometimes upwards of 10 times through InMail and email a week, but only responded to us. And so this organization actually has these they're famous for these breakfast pancake events that they do. But it got people's attention that otherwise weren't looking for us. A couple more things, more advanced, create a story inventory. Right? Doesn't have to be lengthy documents, but blogs, articles, white papers. Be mindful of creating a story inventory. Use video as much as possible. It's taking a little while to gain traction here in Canada, but video job ads, GE in Australia, they just took iPhones, their hiring managers, 90-second videos, what I'm looking for in a candidate goes viral, right? People can apply. That's coming. Use video as much as you can. Extend your referral to friends beyond, one of the challenges when you're small is you don't have a lot of employees, so relying on employee referrals sometimes doesn't make sense. So I recommend that you extend and create these ambassadors, people who really care about your success, places like this, right? And sharing talent, leads on talent. Make sure you're mobile. I think we all understand the pain there. And unlock free real estate. Things like Glassdoor can work for you, not always against you. There are lots of statistics about when employers are paying attention or leveraging these sites to share more information about what it's like to work for you, what your culture is like, they are more likely to apply or more likely to refer. Start early and make the time. The average time to hire is 52 days, and it is increasing year over year. Oftentimes, we're reacting and we need talent like yesterday. It doesn't happen that fast, not if you want to hire the best. And we talked a little bit about that, journalists, friends, as much press as you could possibly get, and there's lots of newsworthiness in what we're doing as organizations. So last I'll leave you, please don't leave the promise at the door. The key to recruitment and retention is really understanding who you are, articulating it, make sure it's activated and aligned all the way through the process. That will result in better retention in your staff. And this is what really keeps CEOs up at night. And of course, lastly, be talent-minded. So we do have time for questions, I believe. Yes?
This might seem like a silly question.
That's okay.
But I'm curious to know, on Glassdoor, for example, if
Yes.
you do have a company profile on there, I don't know if there's the capability to do this, but would you recommend someone reaching out on the website to an individual who has left a negative feedback?
Yes. So responding to negative feedback is one of the #1 things that you can do, right? Other candidates or other individuals looking at that approach and your response show that you actually care, right? And that you have attempted to do something. If you're going to do that, I recommend that you try to be on top of it so there isn't too much time that lags between that response. Don't go into a lot of detail. Say thank you, we hear you, appreciate the feedback. Maybe we're working on something, provided it's true. I had a CEO who was very disappointed. They had a 3.2 rating, which was below average, and it was largely being brought down by somebody that they had terminated, and they just didn't do a good job of it. So it really bothered him, and so he actually contacted her directly, sat down and had a coffee, explained the situation, and she removed the response. Now that's perhaps not going to be the case, but it does make a difference. You can't squeeze the toothpaste back in the tube, right? But you can keep working at it, right? There are lots of examples of where companies have maybe had some transformation. People weren't happy. It's going to happen, but they're on the mend, and the people that do love working there and are really proud, are bringing the rating up by engaging. So I hope that answers your question. You can't, if there's something that you feel is completely incorrect and is inappropriate, you can actually ask for almost like a tribunal, like could you potentially take this down, and they will review it. Oftentimes you won't necessarily get the result that a positive outcome from that, but you can always try if you feel strongly about something, but you can't close them down, unfortunately. Next. Recruitment's easy now, right?
That's unfortunate because it's a lot of very positive reviews of Glassdoor.
Yeah.
Amazing to promote, use it as your tool.
Yeah.
To be scaled up.
Yep. Protect it. Absolutely. Yeah.
On the subject of hiring people, and I've been advised by friends in different firms and that bring on as many consultants and freelancers as you can, especially
Right.
that are in the design industry, and
Right.
try and avoid bringing full-time people on board.
Yep.
There is a pro and con that comes with each one of those. What's your advice? How do I judge in a design environment? Do I bring in 5 consultants? Employee, the fact that this is not the right word, but you have control over the time and schedule, it helps you with some aspects. So how do I go about judging what's the right thing to do?
Right. That's a tough question because that's more of a workforce planning and organizational structure question, to be honest. I mean, I think that if you're able to hire contractors, a lot of organizations are, they don't want to hire contractors, they want full-time employees. So you may be able to tap into a completely different talent pool. It may be more costly, but that might be the right type of flexible, agile solution for you. If you feel like you need to go deeper, I hate to say this, but you might want to work with a consultant to find out if you should hire a consultant. But because there's a lot of value in working with other business leaders that understand and can kind of share with you what the true risks. A lot of companies, like workforce planning, can be a very difficult. Not a lot of companies have necessarily do that really well. Yeah, so that's a tough one.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll just add that as an HR director who has to make that call every day it obviously depends on what kind of talent you're hiring. If you're hiring more niche or like, QAs where it's volume, if that goes into the decision. But I think it's about also the recruiter that gets who your company is and can be an ambassador. So that may be an external recruiter or that may be an internal recruiter. It's really about the right person who can be an ambassador, because you could hire someone externally who totally gets you and can be an ambassador, and you couldn't find that internally, right? So it's obviously they have to have all the foundational recruitment skills, as Tim's pointed out, like thinking of recruitment as sales, but to me that's the most important thing. And a lot of agencies that I've worked with, I didn't find could really sell, but we actually do work with Tim's company, and I think that they do really get who we are, and then in that way they're an extension of us.
Okay.
So that's to me.
Very
Thanks for the plug, Daniil. Great. So we're just over 3:30, so I want to be conscientious of everybody's time and our folks on live stream, but I'm happy to stick around if you have more questions or any comments. Thank you very much. It's been a wonderful way to spend the afternoon. I hope that you found this helpful and relevant, and I will be reviewing and auditing all of your job postings in the next week or so, and making sure that you're applying some of these